Today we're going to talk about climbing the corporate ladder and planning out your career ahead. I'm going to discuss things like roughly the structure within most companies and the different levels from bottom to top, and also pay with a rough guide, bearing in mind that the higher up you go, the bigger the range can be here, and then also the perks that you might expect at different levels within an organisation. So, jumping into our corporate ladder here, we start at the very bottom at intern level. Typically this is entry level, fresh out of university, and we're looking here at maybe somewhere around the 20 to 40,000 pound range. It can vary quite widely and particularly different if you're in a software developer or software engineering role, in which case this at FANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix and Google is going to be substantially higher and even around the six-figure mark. But for most people within a corporate setting, whether this is admin wise in a role such as licensing, or whether it's in even legal, or whether it's in sales, this is more similar to what you're going to be experiencing. In sales, you'll have different names for this, so more like SDR or BDR, sales development representative or business development representative, and those will be the more entry level terms for those roles. So again, as an intern, roughly 20 to 40,000 pounds, and you're not expected to spend too long in this role, at maximum 1 year or 2 if it is a long time. This will get you ready for talking to clients, not necessarily handling accounts yourself, but it's your stepping stone into being in a client-facing role typically. Moving on from there, you finish being an intern and you get offered your full-term role. This might often start at an associate level, and here again, just starting with a low amount of accounts, your salary is starting to get better. Maybe we're talking around the £45,000 mark now, and you're still just getting yourself up and running. The perks will be fairly standard at this point as to what the company gives every employee, so you're talking about your pension benefits and whether your company matches a percentage of that, healthcare, health insurance, any legal help. But here you might also start getting more of your better company benefits on top of your base pay. So here we might be talking about things like companies having a improve your life budget, where every month they give you £100 or £200 to spend on whatever you want, and this is effectively just added to your base pay. The reason why this sits separate to your base pay is that at times of economic difficulty, the company can roll back on that a lot easier than what your base pay is. So you might end up actually with a salary of, let's say, £45,000, but for the year you have an extra £1,200 added to that for your wellness budget, let's say. From associate, we then have a middle ground between career level of senior associate. Again, small pay rises here is more a marker of experience as opposed to anything huge changing within the role. And here you're looking at, let's say, another 5, 10, 15,000 pounds or a 30% jump at each level. Again, this varies massively based on organisation that you're with. Then we step into the first fully fledged role of career level. So this is what most people will be at within their journey, and lots of people may choose to even stay at career level. It's where you're competent within the job, you're fully able to be left alone, whereas with things like associate and senior associate, you'll generally have maybe extra mentors and guides, whereas at career level, you should be able to do your job and do it well. From here, if you look to progress within an individual contributor role, you can become a senior, which again demonstrates your increased tenure and experience. Perhaps you've handled complex cases, and so you might be more now starting to be a person that people on the team come to for advice with their complex scenarios, and it will start your journey towards management level. By the time we're career level, in today's society, we're looking at about £70,000, somewhere in the region of 60 to 80 would be very reasonable for a corporate career level role. And senior pushing up into the 90 to six-figure range. Then the highest level of individual contributor role that we have is principal. This is a great status to reach. As senior, there will be a fair amount of people at this level, but principal means that you are handling the most important cases of whichever department you're in, that your budget or your pipeline is the highest to manage, and it just demonstrates your experience within the role. A lot of times people will become a principal if they do not want to become a manager but still want to move up within the company, and it's a great option to do so that people aren't forced into becoming managers when they don't want to be. They have this alternate progression route. However, that is the ceiling of it as an individual contributor. And here we're talking even up to 130, 140,000 pounds within our corporate setting. As an alternative, and what you need to do eventually if you want to keep moving up, is to move into management roles. And we can see the dotted line here between manager and senior, and sometimes this can even be a dotted line between principal and manager in terms of pay bands. What you'll often find is that there's an overlap between where the highest individual contributor seniority and salaries are and where the starting level of management is. So let's say in your company you are already a senior or a principal and then you become a manager. It's likely that you might not actually see your pay increase at all, but you would need to do this if you want to go higher up the rungs. So then you've become a manager, let's say you're managing your team and you're on now somewhere in the region of, again, similar to senior or principal, so between 6 figures and 130k would be reasonable for one of these types of roles. Then we move up, again, senior manager or team lead, being on the equivalent level of principal. And this is a role of managing people. Now the next big step above team lead is managing people managers or managing people leaders, which would be a director level role. So now we're stepping away from not even just being an individual contributor, but not even managing the individual contributors, we're managing the managers. And this is what would most likely be called middle management in a lot of workplaces. Director is where we're going to start to get a lot of decent salary increases, and this is where again the range will become very different. For all of these roles, you might typically have a base salary plus, again, the perks I mentioned earlier, and also you might have stocks, units, you might have profit sharing that all make up your total salary, which is base and variable, base and commission, base and profit sharing. As we move up as well, we're going to get better perks, including bigger wellness budgets, or even around the senior and principal level, we're going to be getting car allowances, which is on top of your base salary, again in the region of even £5,000 or £10,000, which is an annual budget, which is easier for the company to take away, but it's added to your base salary. So there's no requirement to use it on a car, but you would often get that. In the management and director roles, you're often going to get additional budget for the company, which can somewhat be used to your personal benefit. We're talking client lunches and dinners, etc., and more scope to travel within these roles specifically and flying to other countries where you may have offices, and that for a lot of people is considered a perk, and for some people not as much. So in the director level roles, I would say we're starting to look at the £150,000 to £170,000 mark per year, and then as we move up further into senior director, anywhere upwards to 200k. Beyond this, we then start moving into the VP territory. So you've got regional vice presidents or associate vice presidents. This largely depends on how your corporate structure is organized, whether it's based on regions and geographies, or whether you are simply an associate vice president of a certain column within your company, whether that's commercial, retail, banking, life sciences. From here, and on that level, we're talking again £200,000, £250,000, but then you might also have a large amount of restricted stock units which will vest over time. This could be £100,000 a year on top of your base salary, or for example, you're on £250,000 a year, but it's £100,000 of stock with the company on the condition that you are there for 4 years before you're able to access it all, giving you an incentive to stay with the company. An interesting thing to note is that the higher up you get with these companies, the more you become locked in with them and their success. So you benefit when the company benefits, and you also share more in the risk when the company does not do so well. And there'll be more clauses in the contract to keep you there for a longer period of time. Once we're at VP level and SVP level, maybe even RVP, AVP, we're talking private jet here, so we can consider ourselves that we've made it. And once we get up to SVP, we could even be talking about something like a £500,000 salary, and much higher in America as well if you were to go out there. There's only a couple more steps beyond the VP level, and these would be EVP or C-level, so Executive Vice President or C-level, and this will be managing the different functions within the business, overseeing potentially even thousands of people underneath you, and directing the general direction that the business is looking to go in. This is where things can go really off the chain. So You could have C-level in a small startup and they could be making next to nothing, but it's all in stock options. If the company does well, they become rich. But in larger companies, EVP or C-level, this is your million, multi-million pound salaries, which are disclosed on the company's finance listings. So you can often find those out, and a huge amount of stock options to make them intertwined with the company on a deeper level. The last step above this, if you want to manage the entire organization, would obviously be CEO level, which you could expect anything from this in terms of salary. Some CEOs obviously make billions, hundreds of millions, tens of millions, or even just millions, The thing to note about all of this and the corporate ladder is think about where you want to get to if you're at the start of your career, and think about how long each stage would take and work your way backwards. If you just go through your career hoping for the best and not really thinking about it, and let's say you spent 10 years going from intern to career level, if we extrapolate that out, with another 10 years, 15, 20, maybe you'll reach director, maybe you'll reach senior director, but if you're aiming to become top dog and CEO and board level, it's not going to get you there in time for you to actually have the benefits of it. You don't want to reach CEO at the age of 65 on the day that you retire. So it's important here to think about your career as well. How long do I want this to take? Do I want to reach my end goal when I'm 60 or when I'm 50? Do I want to retire early? So I would definitely take a look at these stages and think about what it takes and how long it's going to take you to get to where you want to get on your rung of the ladder. Personally, I went from what was effectively intern to career level in 3 years, and also from career to senior level in 3 years. So I'm definitely on track at the minute to keep working my way up, and I'm happy with that progress. One thing to note as well is to move fast early. The faster you move up the initial stages and break your way into management so that you're on that second half of the ladder, your life will become so much more easy from that point, not only because of the salary, but because of where you are. Becoming a manager is one of the hardest steps to break into, and moving away from that individual contributor side. And that way, because every other step that you need within that chain, once you've become a manager, is going to be based around your management experience and will largely disregard your individual contributor experience. And for this reason, you want to become a manager as soon as possible so that you have as many years and as many cases of experience under your belt, so that then you can apply for your manager and director and RVP, AVP roles. And this also means that you'll have a higher chance that you'll be there at the right time when those roles are available. Just remember, if your promotions are 5 years apart every single time, you're probably not going to get very far. It's another reason why job hopping is one of the best ways to move up. Anyone you talk to that has moved around jobs has accelerated their career faster than the people that have stayed where they are, because you can wait and wait and wait, and maybe you'll get the opportunity or maybe you won't. But if you go somewhere else and you apply, you can get it there and then, and you can make it happen instead of waiting for someone to give it to you. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Where do you want to get to on this ladder? How long is it going to take you? And what point are you currently at? Let's give everyone advice so that we can all move up in this together and have successful lives. I'll see you in the next one.